So we're excited to start again our fourth series of the effective dating. I'm just going to tell you first what I'm going to talk about. Shira's going to tell you what she's going to talk about. And I'm going to start off talking about our goals, how to make sure that we do have compatible goals. Should we make sure? Then I'm going to transition into red flags, and I'm going to be using diagrams to kind of help you with that as well. Shira?
Yes, I'm going to be talking tonight about giving, what it's like and what does it mean, and kind of givings in relationships.
So here's the dating diagrams that we made. Here we have a couple that go out, and you can see where my finger is, pointer is. Stage one, like we mentioned, is looking at the externalities, and that's what you do right from the beginning of dating. You see if there's attraction, you hear about their possessions, and you're like, wow, whoa. Okay, there's an attractive job, knowledgeable, nice clothes, they dress nicely, right? Money, security, good conversations, similar interests. These are all externalities, and we mentioned in the past that that's not the only reason why you date someone. It's not the reason for loving someone. It could be that you like all these things for yourself. So I put a tick here because you do want to look for compatibility in externalities as well. You need to find out that there's a physical attraction as well. But there's a much bigger tick by the values, because when you are dating seriously, you want to make sure that there's more values than anything else. Make sense? So what you want to look for is, are they insightful? Are they positive? Are they reserved? Are they respectful? Are they giving? Are they caring? Are they humble in any way? Are they balanced, spiritual, loyal? These are the values you need to look for, and find out what it is that you're attracted to in that person. Okay? Now, not everyone's perfect. I don't think there's anybody who's all of these in one shot, right? But the question is, when you are looking at somebody in front of you, are you asking yourself these questions? Are you differentiating between externalities and values? And are you saying, okay, I'm attracted to them, but what am I attracted to? Only the externalities? Well, that's not going to prove that it's going to last. I need to look at the values. So that's why there has to be a bigger tick on this side than this side. We're going to talk about when it doesn't work and when it's not compatible. What we didn't talk about is, okay, so now these two really love each other. They're finding there's a great vibe. And guess what? They have similar interests. They both love tennis. They love good conversations. By the way, this is obviously David and Sarah, right? So they love money. They love nice clothes. They're both attracted to each other with all the things that they're both attracted to. Okay, each person in their own individual way, but they find the externalities in that person and they find the values. Now, I put a car here for a reason. And the car demonstrates, okay, you're compatible, so we're getting in the car together. And we're going on a journey called life. Okay? We're traveling together. Now, the next thing we need to know is, we can't get into the same car and you want to go one direction, you're going left, and the other guy's going right. It's true, very good, we're very similar, I'm attracted, okay, chemistry's working, and there's insight, and there's positivity, there's good values, fine. The next thing I need to look for is stage 3, which is, are we going in the same direction? There's no point going in the same car if you're both going in different directions. And the same is with dating. You'll notice also that I put more blue than green because you have to have more attraction or more emphasis with the values than externalities. But now you're in the same car and now you're looking to see, do I have compatible goals? What's a goal? Does anyone know or think or give me a suggestion what they think is a goal of life? I've written some words at the top, but what do you think is a goal? How do you know what goals are, or how do you understand that?
Different people have different definitions. For some people, the goal is to get married, right? And that's like really all they care about in life.
Right, so getting married, I would say, in this example, is like getting in the car. Okay, you're getting in the car.
Yeah.
Now you're married, but if you don't have the same goals of life, okay, so then same. Well, you could have. Shira said values. There are values in goals, but you could have the same values too. You could have that you're both positive, you're both reserved, you're both respectful to each other, but just there's certain goals. So let me just explain what goals are. Very important. It's how you would like to live your life in the future. Okay, now this is very theoretical, this is where things can get actually problematic, because goals are not really about what's going on right now. It's a lot to do with the future, okay? How you would like to see yourself as an older person, with children, with a bigger family, with a successful career only. You know, what's your focus of your goal? And goal means like towards the end of the life, how do you want to look at yourself? Very Jewish, not so Jewish, right? What's your priorities? I wrote 3 areas, and that's where we all focus on in general. And they are, in more basic terms, it's spirituality, family, and career. Okay, spirituality, family, and career. I wrote here religion, which is spirituality, family, and dwelling place is to do with where you're going to live and what kind of career you're going to have. So you could have 2 people that are so similar to each other, but the problem is she is into medicine and becoming this surgeon, and he doesn't see how that's going to fit in with a very strong family value. I mean, if you're a surgeon and you're working till very, very late, crazy hours, and that's your profession, then I don't know how that's going to fit in with the value of family. So we're going in different directions. It's very good till now, but we don't have compatible overall goals of life. Another example would be, I am stuck, I'm going to be living here. This is where my career is. I built my job. I've become a great marketer. I do great business in LA, and this is where my business is. I can't leave my business. This is what I built. It's my baby. And for her, she needs to be for 5 years at least in another state in order to go through her studies. So that's a very challenging situation where the goals are conflicting with all the attraction that you've had till now. So you have to make sure that these goals are compatible, and that you will deal with them and not wait on them and just keep dating, and ignore the reality of this question of the goals, okay? So let's go to the next page I wrote here. And here's the red flags that I wrote in any of these stages, okay? So a red flag for stage 1, which is externalities, is if you're 0 to 5 in attraction, okay? So that you look at her and you're like, from 0 means repulsion, 10 means, whoa, my heart is on fire. When I see this person, is it below 5? If it is, it's very hard to move it up to a stage which is higher. So even if they're very good values, they've got great values, they're caring, they're giving, respectful, reserved. If I just don't feel an attraction physically, and I'm talking about real physical attraction, I can't wake up to this look. I just can't, right? That's an example. So then it's a no-go. Even if your mom or your grandmom says, hey, this guy is amazing for you, it doesn't matter. They are not marrying him. I need to have a good physical attraction. So stage 1 is it above 0 to 5? If it's not, for me, then I will need to reconsider. Okay, that's really more or less a red flag. We mentioned also last week that sometimes you need time to realize and think about that. But in general, I'm talking about straight up from the beginning. You see that person's face and you're like, right? Or the way that they're dressed and you're like, there's a certain feeling that and knowledge, internal feeling that you have, which says that this is a 0 to 5. I'm not being picky, and I just don't see how this can ever grow, okay? So that's what we would call a red flag. If you can see that there is some kind of attraction, but things are bothering you, like bad circumstances, like they've got a bad job and they should have a better job than that. I mean, why does he own a garbage company? It's great, it's making money, but that's not a job that I would want. So then we need flexibility, and we need you to look at stage 2 because you're attracted to him, you like him, he's really nice. So what we have to do is look at stage 2 as well and see the values. And that can help me in pushing aside my thought of bad circumstances, okay? A lot of times bad circumstances is to do with what everybody else thinks. So what's everyone going to say if I marry somebody who has a garbage company? I don't care if the garbage is making great money, but what's everyone going to say? So in order to avoid that kind of thought, we have to look at the stage 2 as well. Stage 2 is 0 to 5, again, in attractive values. The values you can also rate from 0 to 10. 10 is really good, nice person, so respectful, so positive, so insightful, so caring, so loving, right? All of those are really strong. That's 10. And 0 is I just see a self-centered person. All about me, every conversation's me, and that's all I hear. So anything which is where you don't see any good values in the person, you see the physical attraction, but you don't see the values in any way, it's a 0 to 5 and it needs to be cut off. Okay, so make sure that the values are also a reason for your attraction so that this can be a long-lasting relationship. A long-lasting relationship is looking at the person for who they are and not for what they have. So stage 2 is really important, and it's important to divide our thinking into 2 parts. Not a 0 to 10 just in general. Divide it into 2 parts. 0 to 10 in physical attraction and 0 to 10 in value attraction. Okay, that means for who they really are inside. Sorry if I repeat myself a number of times. I just feel like I really want to get this message deep engraved in everybody because it's going to help in so many ways. Okay, so stage 3 is compatible goals, right? So I wrote here, what's a red flag on non-compatible goals? Different goals that you or they will not compromise. He or she will not compromise on, and you are completely different views on those goals. So at this point, we either need to rethink our values or rethink, will I be able to adapt my life according to this person? For instance, she wants to go to another state to live, and she's open to moving to another state based on her career, and he wants to only live in LA. So if he's very stuck with LA, so she can't change him, can't change anybody. She has to rethink her values. Am I willing to compromise on my desire to travel to different states for my career, or am I willing to take this person into my life? And normally, stage 1 and 2 should push off, should dictate for me and make me realize that I am willing to compromise on certain goals for the sake of this person, because they are so special, they are so attractive to me that I really do not mind those differences, okay? So we're talking about a case where there's different goals and you will not compromise, no way at all you will compromise on it. A person's got a parent who's sick and you want to be with them and you want to live nearby to them and you cannot leave them. That is a very important goal. It needs to be discussed. And again, I always say, stage 3 needs to be rethinking those values every time. That's why, by the way, dating's so hard. Because the minute that you face somebody and you see that he's got different goals to you, now you have to rethink your values. Even if you break up, you're gonna have to rethink and say, okay, was that really important to me? Was that so important? And by the way, that's what marriage is all about afterwards as well, way more. It's constantly rethinking your values. Marriage is all about improving yourself and becoming a better person. And you don't just do it in dating, it's just a little taste of it. When you actually get married, there's so much of, okay, I have to compromise my goal for that person. But we're in a case where I will not, by all means, compromise. If I continue to date this person, I'm wasting my time and that person's time as well. So I don't want to have that, and it would be a red flag. Okay, that is in general the idea. By the way, a red flag also in values is if their reactions are very extreme to certain circumstances. Okay, that's in general a red flag. Extreme reactions to circumstances. In general, the best way to measure it is 0 to 10 as an overall thing in their values. Okay, that's the best way, I believe, to really, because no one's perfect and everyone's got their flaws, but from in general, what is that person's values? That's what I need to look at. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next thing, which is really important, and then I will leave it to Shira to go into her department. Maybe some questions before. Okay, so the next thing that we need to think about is, and this is a very important message, are we spending as much time in sales as in product development? Which means that in every product, if you have a product that you make, right? If you create a camera and you make a camera, you want to always make sure that that product is the best and improve it and make sure it has no flaws. And you also want to market it. There's two departments in everything to do with business. There's one, product development, making sure that the product is up to standards and it works. And the other part is marketing. There's no good selling a junky headphone, right, let's say, and you're selling it to the entire world and you're marketing it in an amazing way. It's all over Amazon, Facebook. Everyone sees this new product and everyone's into it. But then when they start getting it, it breaks down after a week, right? That's a bad policy to have. That's a bad idea for business, bad strategy. You spend so much money in your marketing and sales, but then the product isn't so good. You've got to always make sure that the product is good, because even if your marketing and sales is great and hundreds of people buy it, eventually it will get to you and they will all leave bad reviews on Amazon. Everyone's going to talk about how bad this product is and it will not last. So what I believe we need to do is work on two departments. And this is not me, it's actually from the book, Speed Dating. So what we need to do is work on two departments. One is the marketing department and the product development. Finding a date, using online platforms to find a date, getting up with somebody is all about sales. Okay, how you look, how's your profile on Facebook, how attracted are they to you? All of that is sales. A guy who tells me, dude, this has been an amazing year, I managed to get connected with so many girls, I say to myself, great, he's good at sales. Okay, we're not products, but he's good at sales. He sells himself well, he makes great pictures on Facebook, and everything is really good in the sales part. But in the product development aspect, he's not always working so hard on, which is why he can't last in a relationship. It's always from one to the next. So what we need to do in order to make us work and succeed is both having good marketing skills and both having product development. Product development is not necessarily only when you date. It's even now when you're not dating. It's from the day you were born. That's product development. So you could be the best me that when someone dates you, they're just like, wow, I love this energy. Product development means I am becoming a better and more attractive person to be with. Okay, so these are the points which makes a person have good product development. He's able to compromise. Compromising is key to making a relationship work. When she says, I want you to do something, and you say, okay, there's a huge amount of compromising involved. Okay, the next thing is values. What values do you have? Are you strong in those values? Are you able to stand up for what you believe in? These are values that we need to work on as a product in order to sell ourselves when it comes to dating. Character traits. How do I deal with challenges? Am I frustrated when challenges come my way? Am I frustrated in the restaurant when the food doesn't come on time? These are all product development. And it's all preparation for when I actually date. then they're going to be like, wow, I love this person. The values that they have are amazing. So that's product development. And the second part is marketing and sales. That's selling yourself well. What does that mean? Finding someone, getting a good date, looking impressive. Giving is to do with product development and marketing and sales. It's both, but in the aspect of marketing yourself, right? We tend to do a lot of giving and to show off to that other person of how kind I am. But when I'm talking about marketing and sales, I mean giving in that aspect. But when we're talking about product development, that's giving from within. Are you a giving personality? And we need to have that in there as well. So I believe there should be the word giving in both of these. But in general, that's what we need to work on. Product development and marketing and sales as well. Okay, these two big fields. And don't think that you can win somebody because you had great sales techniques. At the end of the day, it says in the Talmud, "Mezavgim la'adam kefi ma'asav." You find your spouse according to who you really are. That's how it works. So you can't come and it's like going to buy a camera for $1,000 and you say, hey, I don't have $1,000, so I can't buy the camera for $1,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a flower shop next door, buy a bunch of flowers, walk into the store and say, hey, dress really nicely. Say, hey, I would love to have your camera for $500 and here's a bunch of flowers. Can you do me the deal? I mean, the guy's going to say, what are you crazy? You're trying to be nice to get a half the price? And I can't sell it for $500. I lose money. I can't sell it for $500. So that's exactly what it's like to go into a date looking all cool and looking all attractive, but having nothing at all from within. It will take a date or two for the other side to realize and move on. So if you want someone that's better than you, and you should always look up to having someone that's better than you a bit, you have to always make yourself better as well. Product development is key for sales, is key for a good date. And we spend way too much time in marketing and sales, way too little in product development. And we need to spend more in product development. And that applies to when you're not dating, when you're in work, when you're at home, wherever you are in life, you are building your date already from now by who you really are right now, right here, wherever you are in this current situation. So that's really what I wanted to share with you. Before we go into the next stage, are there any questions, thoughts, ideas that anyone wants to share?
Rabbi, I think that it's fallacious to say that there's, that you should go for someone who's better than you, because there is no better than you or me or anyone else. There's only better for you, because everyone has different values, right? So it's really not like, there can be all sorts of like subtle implications to saying, oh, you should always go for someone that's better than you. Well, okay, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's a talk that many people have today, is like everyone's equal, everyone's the same, everyone's, and that's very wrong, because and not to take away what you're saying, as there's two parts to a person. It's true that no individual is perfect in all matters, but there's two types of people. There's one that constantly tries to work on himself, and there's another guy that doesn't. I know within myself, right, that there were stages where I neglected myself and the stages where I was better. So when I say looking at somebody in front of your eyes and saying, okay, I'm looking for someone that's better than me, right? I need to look at them as a general statement, not in specific things, because everyone's got their own things that they're not good at or good at. But in a general statement, is this a good person? Now, we always want to raise our levels. We don't want to lower our levels. You don't want to have somebody, if you've been working in making yourself successful in your career, in your life, in everything, and you're going to have somebody who's a dropout of college and who's smoking pot all day and doing nothing, right? You don't want that. So that's called, you can say, oh, we're all equal. It's true. But at the end of the day, we are all meant to be treated equal, but we are definitely not
same.
Equal in actions. Hey,
Can I speak?
We have a choice.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt. I
Please.
just wanted to speak to the statement that he brought up, because I've experienced that myself. And the way that I understood you, Rabbi, is that, like, for example, me, if I'm dating someone, if I'm working on something like in myself, like a trait or whatever it is, and the guy that I'm dating is much better at that than I am. So in that way, I kind of look at him and I'm like, okay, he's better, not than me, but at that trait than I am. And then that inspires me. And I've experienced that, where that person is better at that certain thing than me. And then it kind of inspires me to be that way. And that's what I look for personally.
Good.
So
Beautiful.
that's how I took what you had said.
Yes, beautiful.
That's amazing. Yes, I think that's a great way to do it.
Yes.
On the first slide, it said, like, under externalities, one of the thing was money. And for me, I would think that, like, an important thing is how the person chooses to spend their money. Like, that's important to me. But
That would go in the category of values. How somebody spends their money is their value.
Yeah, how they live their life. It's not.
If they have money, that's not the. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no. I'm actually saying it's not about, some people want to go for the money. It's not like necessarily, they don't care how people necessarily spend. They just want someone rich because they want to be set for the rest of their lives. But what you were saying, I think it's important, obviously, and I think I mentioned that in one of the examples last week, of a guy that has crazy spending habits, or a girl, so the other side can be cautious about that, and that could be a red flag for some kind of behavior. So it is important, I think, to obviously have someone who understands and you're on the same page in terms of, like, living life and spending and lifestyle.
Well, I was going to ask also, like, how do you find that out about someone without, like, wasting time, I guess? Because, like, you can't ask that on the first date.
So
Wait, you're saying how they spend their money, Molly?
Like, I feel like it's important to know, like, how they financially use their money. Like, that's important to me. Like, if someone's just going to, like, spend it on clothes all the time versus, like, save it.
I think you can find that out based on, it might not be the first date.
Yeah, no, I don't think the first date, but maybe.
It can be based on what they prioritize.
Yeah, you can totally get a lot of that from conversations.
And that was basically our point from my end.
Did anyone have any more questions or any comments that they wanted to add to the first part?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So for the externalities, obviously there needs to be some physical attraction. You share the same values, but in terms of similar interests, obviously you're not going to share 100% of them, but you need to be able to talk about something. Can't just be about COVID-19, right?
Right.
Everyone's similar interests right now.
Yes, I mean, you have to have a similar interest, but that can't be our only reason for attraction. So that was why I kept emphasizing that in the past. Similar interest is not the same values. Okay, that similar interest means that we both run the marathon. Just because two people run the marathon does not mean that they should get married with each other, right? It's not good enough. If we both play tennis or we both watch kung fu movies is not enough of a reason for us to get married. It's just not.
It can be a bonus.
It's a bonus.
Whatever.
And it will go into the attraction package of 0 to 10.
Yeah.
But it's an external attraction. It's not who that person is. If somebody tells me I love them because, and this happens, because we both do the same thing, we both have the same interests, then I'm very sorry to say, but it's not enough of a reason to get married to that person. And that's all I'm saying. So you should find similar interests. A red flag is there's no giving, which is what we're going to be talking about. And part of giving is talking and having communication. Like you're actually talking with each other. So there needs to be compatibility. And that's just something that's really, really important to have attraction. But remember that that's not the only reason why I'm attracted to them. When I rate my dating, I shouldn't really be doing these type of things, but When I do rate, it should be not just on the externals, I'm also rating the values. Always make sure that I'm doing both, because in the long run, that's going to really help me to confirm that this is the right person for me. Sounds good?
Yes, thank you.
For sure. Remember also, money is an external thing. How they spend the money is a value. Okay, that's another thing, just to remind everybody about what Molly was asking. Money is an externality, what they have, it's not them. How they spend it is them. How they feel towards things, how they spend, right, that's them, that's really them. So how they act with certain things is really them. Okay, you have a nice car, how do you act with the car? That's really showing you their values. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next topic. We wanna cover some ground.
All right, let's talk about giving. We have 15 minutes. We'll see what we can pack in during those 15 minutes. Okay, so giving. There is a strong sign for a relationship that we know it has a potential to last, that the couple enjoys giving to each other. So giving is very essential for the relationship. When giving is mutual and healthy, like we said, the love has the potential to last, but also not only to last, but to grow stronger each year. Now, again, not all types of giving are going to build love, and we're going to talk about types of giving. When we talk about, giving, and a lot of the times many singles kind of like jump and tell us in frustration that, they've been in relationships where they felt like they gave and gave and gave, and they never got anything in return. And that's frustrating and that's annoying and got them really upset about the other person. And so they were trying to understand, where is the problem? Where am I heading to? What does it mean that I'm giving so much, but I'm not getting anything? So this frustration, for example, is usually a symptom that the wrong type of giving was taking place. And we're going to talk about types of giving right now.
Can I share the
screen? Let's analyze the types of giving. There's two types that I want to cover. One is thoughtful giving, which I would call love-building giving. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, the second one is unhealthy giving. In unhealthy giving, I'll give you 3 examples because there's a few. There's giving with agenda, giving that is really taking, and giving to the wrong person. All these 3 are going to end up not good. So even if you give, it's not going to be good. So let's go to the positive. First, let's do thoughtful giving. So we know that one form of giving that really builds love between 2 people is called chesed, thoughtful giving. Now, this kind of giving happens when my intention, when I give, is primarily to really help the other side, help the other person to reach their goals, attain their goals. I am aware of their needs, their, things that they like or dislike. And the other side, and this point is very important, the other side is also open to receiving my giving. So it's both sides, okay? Now, in the early stages of the relationship, the thoughtful giving can be as simple as, let's say, a guy, he's taking a girl on a date, and from the 2 times that he spoke to her, he knows that she likes Chinese food. So he decides to take her out to the best Chinese restaurant. He knows she would love the food and she would appreciate it. Now, it wouldn't be his first choice. Like, he likes Italian food, okay? So, but again, this is thoughtful giving. He does like a little thing she might not even know, but it's from his point of view, doing an act towards her, towards doing something to this relationship. Now, another example, later on, the girl will choose to, let's say, spend a whole Sunday, going to the hardware store and picking up some supplies for her constructor guy that she's dating with. She wouldn't choose this activity to do on a Sunday from the first place if she wouldn't date this guy, but it's like a gesture. She's doing this as act of giving to him. He obviously receives it, he's happy, and she's happy to give. Now, let's move on to the next thing. Now, thoughtful giving could be difficult, and that's a challenge when the person that you're dating, let's say you don't have respect to the other person's character or the direction they're taking in life. So for example, I'll give an example that I wrote here. Let's say Sarah is passionate about graduating college, okay? Pretty simple. Now, Dave doesn't really see the value in education. He dropped out of college. He decided to start his business young. He's doing well. He's pretty successful, but education is not a thing for him. He doesn't really appreciate it, doesn't really respect it much. So what can be here in this relationship? It would be hard for him to do thoughtful giving, to really give in the best way possible, because from the first place, he doesn't really respect her goals. He won't be able to help her achieve her goals because he doesn't respect her goals. But again, I'm not saying that this relationship cannot happen, because what we learn that a person can shift their thinking. If he really is into her, he would try and think way beyond of what he respects or not, and he's gonna work on himself. I'll give another example. Let's say the guy is very into electronics and devices and different things, and the girl is not so much. Looking at you. So it could be that, yeah, I might not appreciate these things much, but he does. But I can still give. I can still, understand what the other side really likes. And let's say surprise them one day and buy them something that's to do with electronics and whatever. They would appreciate it. And I made like an extra step towards getting closer to them in that aspect of giving. Even though I don't necessarily really value that much these things. But I know it makes them happy, so I'm fine with that. So, like I said, it's not gonna be impossible, but it could be challenging if a person doesn't work on themselves to make an extra effort to do this like thoughtful giving.
So just to clarify, thoughtful giving means that you do the giving for that person.
Yes.
But you also want to make sure that that you like what they're doing, and not that you don't like it.
I mean, I wouldn't say no, because that's also an agenda. I mean, I would say thoughtful giving is really giving and helping the other person achieve their goals, really thinking of them. Nothing to do with me right now. When I'm giving, it's really for them. And I mentioned just like a small thing, when you do have a problem with certain things, certain directions of their whatever, like I said, in education, and the other side doesn't really appreciate it. It's not really a deal breaker for them. They can manage with that. It's not gonna break their relationship or anything.
Right, when you don't respect what you're giving to.
Yeah, but they can work on themselves to make it work. Mm-hmm. So I would summarize it just to make it clearer that thoughtful giving requires these things. Some knowledge of the person, basic knowledge, but the more you know about them, the more you know about what they like, don't like, direction in life, whatever their goals, then the richer your giving can be, because then you have much more ways to give. And then you need to think about their needs as well. That's also thinking properly and trying to help them. Not what I think they need, is what they really need. So thinking of their needs, and if you don't know, you should ask. So that's over time. That's something that you develop. And you also need to assess how they react, whether the person is open to your giving or not. And we'll talk about it, because, the receiver, it's also an important role here, because the receiver, if they are not willing to receive, then it's a problem. It's not really both ways. Or if they're not giving as well, which we're going to talk about it as well, then it's also unhealthy. It has to be that they're accepting your giving, and they will also give, but it's not on condition that they will give. I want to hear from you. Any thoughts? Is it clear? Do you want me to clarify it more before I move to the unhealthy giving? Anyone? Seems pretty clear.
I mean, I think when you like someone or you have interest in them, the giving comes kind of naturally, or you should want to.
Right. I mean, that's definitely, we know that ahava, love, is giving. I mean, it's definitely an essential part of the relationship. Without giving, you really have nothing. So when you start having those emotions, you naturally, the same way I love my child and I naturally want to give them, I naturally want to give my husband, it's something that you hopefully would have. And when you start having these emotions, you know, you are, at least from a point of giving, you're going in the same direction, but then put some more thought in, what do they really want? What do they really need? How can I really help them? Not necessarily, and then I'll move on to the other things, but some of the giving, like I said, has an agenda or has other things behind it. So we need to make sure it's really for them. But I agree with you.
I just want to throw in, good giving doesn't need to be massive things. It's like very American to think that way.
Yeah, no, so that's, like I said, smaller things here. It could be like we said, if it's a date, taking her to the place that she likes, or helping him with something that, you know, he might need, whatever, depending on the person and what they're like and what their way of life and lifestyle is. You can pick on small things, you know, to, I guess, unless you have any other, I would say, examples that you would say, add?
No, just like in my own experiences, I always thought that I need to go out of the way, write this massive thing, get a massive box, and you know, only if it's nice, then I'll give it, and if not, I'm not going to give it, right? And that's something which I learned over time. It's the wrong idea. If you're giving small things, that also matters. Most people have everything they need, really.
Yeah.
You know, when they really need, like most people have.
Yeah.
It's just giving like a small, you know, it's much less than what we expect.
Yeah.
Is also very valuable.
Yeah, it could be a letter. It could be one flower. It shows that we care. I mean, all these small things. It's like, I remember since we were dating, I remember telling you, like, I don't need these big things. Like, I want a letter or I want a flower, whatever. It makes a big difference for me. I don't need these massive things that you have to spend tons of money. I want to know that you're really there, though, you know, that you're really thinking of the relationship and wanting to make it work. So, yeah, I think that's... Anyone wants to add anything?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question, yeah. So I was in a long-term relationship for most of my adult life, I would say. So giving was like natural for me. It didn't feel like something that I had to worry about. Oh, am I doing too much? Or, oh, you know, is this person going to receive it poorly? Or I don't know. And then having been single for a little under a year, I've learned very quickly that like giving like is not always received well. Like, especially in dating these days, I feel like knowing when to give to someone, I feel like I give very easily. And like, I think of people, if I like someone, I care, and I really care. So like, I'll make you holla and I'll bring it over, or I'll do whatever it is, you know, to be kind. But then I feel like dating these days doesn't allow for that as much as like I would like, maybe, I guess. I don't know if that makes any.
Yeah, that's why
it doesn't help anything. It just.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's important, that point that we said, to make sure that, to really understand also and assess, is the person going to receive my giving as giving, and not like, oh, it's too much, or whatever it is that they're thinking, you know? So we have to put a lot of thought into the giving, and that's thoughtful giving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the hard part is knowing when it's okay to give. I think that's harder than, I think giving comes naturally to us. I think especially the Jewish community, we're taught that's part of our nature, I guess. And I think it's more of like, I don't like to have to filter myself all the time. If I want to give to someone, I want to give from my heart. I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells, deciding when I can do something kind for somebody. But dating in LA doesn't allow for that, I think.
Yeah, I think dating, I mean, giving in general, you know, when you give in general, that's probably going to be received like open arms, you know, but when it comes to dating, we find that obviously there's a lot of sensitivities for some reason, and different things, and people are not sure, and there's no black and white here. There's no like clear answer. It's really just intuition and really trying to figure out what that person is like and how soon can I, you know, these kind of things. And sometimes we do trial and error, you know, you can sense something and then sense what the person is reacting, and then know for next time, or at least, you know, until a few weeks later. But I agree. I definitely agree. Okay. So I see it's already 9:30. Should we move on to the unhealthy, or what do you guys think?
Come on.
Yes. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. I'm happy to keep going as long as you're okay with it. All right. So unhealthy giving. Unhealthy giving, as we probably know, and I'm sure most people know, it can really hurt either the giver or the receiver or both of them. Now, like I mentioned before, we have 3 types: giving with agenda, giving that is really taking, and giving to the wrong person. So I'll start with giving with agenda. What is giving with agenda? So the giver's primary motivation for the giving here is basically to further their own goals, whatever their own goals are. For example, I'll give an example, and sometimes it does work out with the needs of the other side. So for example, a guy gives a girl a gift, okay? And then it's something that she does like or needs or whatever it is. I mean, she would probably enjoy from it. And she'll be open to receive it. But the main reason for this act wasn't really for her. It was really for his own benefit. So what can happen with this kind of giving, that many times it does build resentment. And I'll explain why. Because the giver, it doesn't feel appreciated for their gesture, for the gift that they're giving. And the recipient doesn't feel that they're genuinely cared for. So there's something that's really lacking, and they really understand that there is, I would say, an agenda here. And I'll give you an example to make it more simple. So let's say we have, so I don't have David and Sarah, but I have Tom and Stacy. I'll stick with those.
Perfect. Chris and Stacy.
Whatever,
No one here.
We don't have any of these names here, so that's fine.
Dad and Stacy.
Cool. Yeah, you commented about Stacy last time. Okay, so let's say they're dating, and Stacy doesn't really like the way Tom dresses. And not only she doesn't like the way he dresses, she finds she's embarrassed to, over time to bring him to gatherings, to parties. She's just she likes him, but something bothers her, and social pressure, whatever it is, she doesn't feel comfortable being with him in public, let's say. What she decides to do, and she also thinks that the way he's dressing can really, or does really affect his career or his job or the way people are treating him. Now, what she does, she decides to give him a gift card to one of these, I don't know where men buy clothes, but to one of these big stores.
Men's Warehouse.
Do they have that here?
It's pretty Jewish.
In England, you have that.
No, they have it here. Of course.
Oh, they do? Okay, that's cool. So let's say Men's Warehouse, whatever it is. She gives him $400, and she also says
It's going to give him nothing at Men's Warehouse. A belt.
Maybe they'll go during a bargain time or sales or something, And but she also offers to pick his new clothes, go with him, because she obviously wants to make sure it's clothes that she likes. Now, let's put it this way. This giving is most likely not going to build the love between them, and let's analyze why. Tom will sense that there is a lack of genuinely here. I mean, there's no thoughtful giving, and he'll understand very quickly that it's really for her, not for him, what she cares about. And Stacy will expect she wants appreciation. She gave him $400 for clothes, and you didn't say, you're not saying anything. But I would like to analyze it from a different perspective. We're not Tom and Stacy. And say like this. Stacy, if she really wants to, let's say, she wants him to buy the clothes, and he's okay with doing that, she should shift her thinking and acknowledge the fact that she's doing it for her, and she should maybe say thank you that he's willing to change his clothing, because not everyone is willing to. I mean, if he likes the pair of whatever he's wearing, then he should stick with that. But if he's agreeing to that, that's already, I think, a step. So she should appreciate that part. And she can also learn not to be embarrassed, because eventually once, you really connect to the person, you really love the person, at some point you won't care that much about what other people say. So what? So they say. So there's two things that she could work on, and then he would be fine. He'll be happy, and we would skip that part of the unhealthy giving. It can be healthy giving here, but it all depends on how she's going to view it, and how he's going to feel.
So she can't think, oh, I just spent all this money on him.
And he doesn't even say anything. He doesn't say thank you. I've heard it quite a few times, like guys or girls that buy different things for the other side for certain reasons, and they expect thank yous and they expect appreciations, but that doesn't really come because the other person didn't necessarily feel like they needed that or wanted that. And so there's a lack of something here, as we see, and that creates resentment. Over time, it will build up, and it's unhealthy. So that's one type. Let's analyze another example. So I do have Sarah and Dave. I actually put down Sarah and Dave here.
Sarah, are you dating a Dave? Do you know a Dave?
What is it? No, we don't know anyone,
I'm
Dave.
not.
So that's why we picked.
She's asking Sarah.
Oh, you asking Sarah? Okay.
Yeah, I'm asking Sarah. Could
Yeah.
you say Sarah?
Sorry, Sarah. We're like using your name, but it's pretty generic.
As long as it's spelled without an H, I approve.
Okay.
It is actually without an H.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's without an H. Okay, so let's say they're dating. Now, Sarah really likes him. She really wants to make it work, okay? So she wants to do anything to keep that relationship going. What she does, she's buying him gifts. She's going to his apartments here and there. She is tidying up his cupboards. Like, she would do anything. And I would say she would even run errands for him. But everything with a hope, and when I would say hope, that's her agenda. I want to make this work, without necessarily listening to what's happening on the other side. But she wants to make it work. Now, what happened often, people like Sarah in this case, they think that the more they would give to the other side will learn or develop the love to them and develop the commitment to them. But this is wrong. You end up wasting time, because the more she gives, the more she's going to be invested in that guy. But if he is not giving back to this relationship and she feels good with his giving back, he's not investing, not in her and not in in their relationship, and the love will not increase, and definitely will create resentment, like we said before, because she would expect thank yous and he would not feel like I didn't ask for it, it's too much, she's too much, around and whatever. And so that is also a problem. So these two would give us an idea of unhealthy giving, which has some kind of an agenda behind it. But in order to avoid this, we have to really analyze it. We have to really think of what the other side is feeling like. Are they giving also? Is it just me that's giving? Is it just me that's dominant? Is it just me that's initiating and the other side is not doing much? That is a real problem. So if there's a person that you're dating and doesn't show signs of wanting to commit to the relationship, and when I say wanting to commit, that's also in giving, because giving does show that they're investing their time in you, then you may be wasting your time, The amount of the time that you put in it might not change their mind. Now, I would say side points, which we hear a lot. It's not directly connected, but I'll still say it in this part, that a lot of the times guys do say, look, we always need to be the ones that are buying everything, the drinks, the food, the thing. We spend so much money on the girls. There's so much expectation from us. So what's up with that? Until how long this is going to, with every date, for how many months, So what I'm thinking here is, and I'm tying it to giving, because at a certain point, let's say after a few dates, it should be normal that the girl will offer to cover some of her things or whatever it is. They go it should be mutual. It should be that both sides, unless the guy really insists because he wants to be the man, he wants to whatever. In some communities that works, but I would say in general, it has to be giving from both sides. So yes, the first few, I'm not saying the first few dates, it's normal, and it's actually, I think it should be, you know, for a man to show that they're a man, and, you know, I expected it from you, but it not for too long, you know, you're not meant to date the first date forever. Then if you're really investing in the relationship, you are going to feel naturally, the same way we said we're going to feel naturally that we want to give. Part of giving is, giving into the relationship. So this time I'll pay, or I'll pay for myself, whatever it is, however they want to work it out. But it was important for me to mention this point because I hear it so many times, and I feel like it should be mentioned. And we should make it normal that it doesn't have to be for 2 years that the guy has to pay everything. You know, we need to invest in it as well. So back to the thoughtful giving, has to be both sides. Anyone want to add anything on whatever I said now before I move to the giving that is really taking?
Just that giving, I think sometimes, I'm going to go to the point of like having guys buying girls drinks or food. Just because they buy doesn't mean they need to, you have to like give back to them too.
Well, again, sorry, I didn't understand.
Like, anyway, like meaning make sure that when someone gives you something, you know it's genuine and it's because they care, not to make you feel like you owe them something.
Yeah, so that's another thing I think hopefully I'm gonna mention it in here. Right, yeah. So hopefully I'll cover it, but if I don't cover that at the end of, you know, the session, please tell me again. But yes, I agree with you. That's another thing. You do have to figure out if this is genuine or not, but we're going to talk about giving that is really taking. And I think that's your point. I think someone else said they wanted to say something.
Jacob.
Shira, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So let's say that you are in some sort of relationship and you are giving more than the other person. Like, you really are doing everything. They are not taking much initiative. So what's an appropriate way to bring this up with them?
I think, you know, depending on how long the people are kind of like, you know, the other person. But I think, you know, after 2 months, you know, 3 months, you do have to see some progress. And if you don't, then you should bring it up in terms of like maybe exposing them to the idea of giving. I don't know if they're like into Jewish stuff, but that's something that worked for some people. But I definitely believe, and again, it's a question that's hard to understand because I don't know the other person. Usually when I'm speaking to a person, I can get who they are and I'm trying to kind of like sense with my intuition when to say what and what's the right way to say and when to bring it up. But I really think it should be brought up because otherwise you might be wasting your time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just throw in, giving is a key component to making the relationship work.
Yes.
If there's no giving, that is the ingredient to dating. Anyone wants to know what's the ingredient to dating? It's giving.
And we're going to mention it soon, that giving is not only one side, like I said. There's always the giving and receiving, but then the receiver should be trained to be a giver as well. So we're going to talk about that your receiving is also giving, but then you're going to train yourself to be a giver as well, so you don't get used to just receive. But that's, you know, we're going to discuss that. I think Jordan wanted to say something. Yeah. Did you finish your point?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Jordan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just genuinely interested on the topic of like the guy paying on a first date, because sometimes I feel like you feel obligated to do so. Other times you feel like you could be insulting the girl you're going out with by assuming you should be the one to pay. And it's a pretty fine line. And I feel often like you're judged a lot. And, you know, in my experience, sometimes people say, oh, no, that's fine. I got it. But they're completely lying. It's a test to get you to say you'll do it yourself. So I'm just curious what opinions are with
Bro, it's so simple. Literally, you just pay unless she physically stops you from paying.
Interesting. I'm kind of interested just to hear a lot of the girls' input on it because it's
I really think, maybe, look, I've met a lot of people in my life that they can say one thing, but then they don't really mean it. And when it comes to girls, I just feel like, the first date or two, it should be the guy that's doing it. Not because like, hey, I want you to spend your money. I feel like it's social norms. And we have to look at what's normal in the society that we live in. So if in the society that you live in, it's not the norm, then you don't need to do it. But I'm saying we have to be accurate with what's going on around us, I think. Different communities have different things. And in different communities, we know that if they say no, it's really a yes. So sometimes it's just, you have no way to know. You can just insist to do it unless, I wouldn't say physically, but unless you can sense that she really wants to do it herself.
In Eugene, Oregon, the norm is the opposite way around. Because you want to make... you want to show equality, so
maybe the girl should start paying.
You have to.
Lindsay, what do you think about that?
I'm just joking.
Yeah,
to an extreme.
I don't know. I see it a little bit, I guess. Maybe a little bit in Portland too, but no, I agree more with Shira.
Yeah, I just feel like, we girls sometimes we feel bad or whatever, but you know what? It's just you just do your thing, but it can't last for too long. You don't have to keep paying for every date. Obviously with that person, if you continue dating, then it should be mutual. What's what I think.
I think it's nice to see someone invest in you and invest their time or their energy in you. I think that's what you're talking about. Giving is showing genuine, giving your time is a great gift. I think our time is our most valuable thing that we have. And, but I also see at the beginning of the first date, it's nice to see someone also just being kind of thoughtful towards you. I think that's what women like to see, is just thoughtfulness. And I think maybe that's what we interpret then as taking us out for a date or whatever. And I think that most women, if you give a little bit in the beginning, they're going to give you a lot back. I think that guys kind of see it as this tit for tat thing. And I don't know. I just think if you give fully, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Anyone wanted to say anything?
Always pay on the first date, men. Always.
Okay, so here's the final.
Always.
And
you
then
hear that,
after
Sharona? I said that already.
I feel like it's kind of, if you're dating for a while, it's kind of odd if they always keep paying.
Yeah, for sure when you're dating for a long period of time.
Or even after, you can at least after maybe 3 or 4 dates, then you can kind of either split it, or if you're doing an activity and dinner, one person pays for this, one person pays for that. It's kind of...
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with Natasha. It's you want that investment. You want them to you feel cared about.
Yeah.
It's also, yeah.
Women work differently, so it's good. It's good to learn how we work.
We'll never know. It's not worth it.
Don't you know now? After 10 years of marriage, something he probably does know.
No one will ever know. It's the center of a Tootsie Pop, whatever they call that.
They're the most amazing things. That's what I can say. I'm surrounded by girls in my house.
Yeah, right. He's outnumbered.
Me and Abraham.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, let's move to giving that is really taking. Okay, so giving that is really taking. I would say it's similar to the first one, which is with giving with agenda. But here, the giver doesn't consider the other side and their needs at all. It's literally purely just to reach their goal, and therefore, their giving is not giving, but it's taking. And I'll give you now an example to make it simple. So, there's the guy, and he's taking out this girl that he really likes for a date. Let's say first date, second date. Oh, I'll stick to the first one, okay? First date. Really stunning restaurant, spends lots of money. And he tells her towards the end of the evening that he loves her. And that's how the evening goes. Now, his agenda that he wants to have an intimate evening with her tonight. Now, she might be mistaken and think that he really is interested in her and wants to invest in the relationship. Now, he's really manipulating her to think that he loves her and she can fall for it. Now, this kind of behavior, which is, again, he gave her, he paid for her, whatever, but that's really taking. It's for his own benefit. This can really destroy and hurt both of them. What can happen to someone that experienced that kind of manipulative behavior from someone else, in this case, from the guy? She would become bitter and cynical about finding meaningful love. And the type of the character that he is, manipulative, they usually often continue until they are they continue with their behavior. They do it with many people until they are incapable of forming a meaningful bond with other human beings. And then they have a real problem of commitment. They cannot last with one person more than, I don't even know, like a month, 2, 3 months, 4 months. And then they have this habit of like, keep dating new people, different people.
Shira, I feel really insulted right now.
I'm so sorry. I'm just talking about the truth, Like there's a lot of things that are out there. Nothing is personal to anyone, guys. Just saying what we know. So what I would say about this, it's really giving that's really taking. This is not giving, and that's definitely not a healthy giving. It doesn't help any of them. In fact, it can hurt both of them, like I said, in different ways. Anyone want to add anything on that?
Can I just throw in that
you want to add anything?
In every deal, in every conversation, I forgot who it was that says that everyone's really focused on their own agenda. And I don't know what the exact statement is, but like basically, we all have an agenda in everything that we do. So I want to say that, yes, it's true that everyone has an agenda. I mean, everyone wants to get into a real relationship, and that's for their own feeling. And everyone wants to live a life where they are in a relationship. That's for their own feeling. But at the end of the day, do I look at that person as I look at myself? Am I still engaging in the laws of Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love your friend like you love yourself? Am I thinking of them as a human being or as an object for me to obtain? Am I thinking of them as something that's valuable or something that what can they give from me? So what is the main focus? It's always that you're going to have an agenda. We all have an underlying agenda. If I'm dating, I want to get into a relationship. That is my agenda. Obviously, if I'm dating, I want to learn about this person. We all have an agenda. But is that my underlying reason of what I'm doing? And if it is, then that is what we're talking about. That's really giving, that is taking with that. I just wanted to throw.
Thanks.
I think it's important to.
I appreciate it. That really clarifies some more. And I'm going to move on right away to giving to the wrong person. So that's the third thing that I wanted to cover tonight. So, sometimes people find themselves giving in a healthy way. Let's say everything is according to the books, okay? Everything is healthy in the relationship, but they don't feel like the love is growing. There is no progress with the relationship. A lot of the times, and I'm not saying generally all the times, but a lot of the times, often it's because they are giving to a taker. And let's talk about that. So there are two types of people. I'm sure you know, but there is a giver and there is a taker. Now, giver, their being or the way they are is they are thinking of the surrounding, the people around them. How can I make my world a better place? And when I say my world, it could be, my family, friends, community, workplace. They are people that are trying to work on themselves, better themselves, work on their character, their midot, the character traits. And they also would do that to help make the world a better place. Because if you are working on yourself, it's going to be a nicer surrounding for the people around you to be around you. So that's definitely the idea of the giver. They definitely are very in tune with their surrounding and care about the people around them, and they do want to help. Now, takers are usually people that I would put it like think of themselves, and they think of how can I acquire as much as I can for myself throughout my life. So they usually tend to, they usually think that by getting stuff and buying things and acquiring things for themselves, they're going to be fulfilled. But we know that that's not the case, and people go through a lifetime and never being fulfilled with physical things that they have, because it's just that's what it is. Judaism says, Yesh lo mea rotze ma'atayim. You have 100, you want 200. It's never going to end. There has to be something deeper than that. They're often they are labeled as selfish, egocentric, people with that kind of character. Now, like I said, takers will never be satisfied or fulfilled until, they get what they want, but then they want more. Now, a lot of the times, they want things that are beyond their reach. That's their goal. It's hurting them that there's something they can't get. Or this guy really wants to get that girl. He is going to work day and night to get her because that's what he wants for himself. Now, what can happen then? That once they do acquire that thing, once he does get that girl or whatever, they lose interest very quickly. And then they move on to the next thing. Because as we said, they can't last in one thing for more than a little bit, because then they need more things. They're never fulfilled with what they have. So giving to that kind of person is not going anywhere and is extremely, extremely painful. Because what can happen is you give and give and give and give. It's going nowhere. It's not advancing anything. They feel entitled, never mind saying thank you or whatever, but they feel entitled for what they're getting, and they have strong expectations. And like I said, they have very little, if no appreciations to you, to all you're giving. So this is definitely not a good type of giving, and we need to recognize if we are giving to a giver or we're giving to a taker, which is a big deal here. Now, a key to lasting love, and we kind of said it before, is finding a giver to give to. And me, myself, become a giver as well. So, and I mentioned that before also, that being a receiver is also giving, meaning I really want to give. I feel this feeling that I really want to give you, I love you. Now, what happens next? If you're going to reject it, I'm going to feel horrible. So part of you giving me is you receiving my gift or whatever it is, my giving to you. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be emotional. It could be anything. So the receiver is a lot of times also a giver. So we need to thrive to be givers, not takers. And I would say that if you feel, and that happens to people, if you feel like you are dating someone who may be a taker, I wouldn't say to write them off right away and say goodbye, but I would say it's important to expose them to this value of giving, expose them to, what giving really is in a relationship, and see what happens. If they're not responsive to it, sometimes people, listen, and they are, wow, this is they kind of work on themselves, and they have motivation to do it, and they do change their own thinking and the way they work.
So this should answer actually Jacob's question, which he was asking how to deal with someone that's not giving and you're just giving all the time.
Is to say you're going to have to present it, ask, and also bring up the idea of giving, the value of giving.
Right, expose them to it, and then see how they react or see how their conversation is on that topic once they are exposed. See if they really deeply within don't have that value. Because a value without giving within them, it's not gonna last. It's not a relationship. A relationship is giving. That's what builds a relationship
from both sides. So I think that can. So yeah, that's believing in the fact that they could shift their thinking, but they could also not. So you just have to see what happens, and if nothing happens and there's no change, Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's something that probably has a lot of potential to grow to something else, because you can't work with someone who is a taker and doesn't give. It's pretty painful. So I would say, to summarize, whatever I said is thoughtful giving, which is the chesed, the real giving, between two givers, nurtures the relationship and is a strong insurance that your relationship will last. And not only last, we're not only talking about lasting relationship, lasting love, it's also going to increase every year, every time that you're together. There's going to be progress to better, not staying in the same stage for the rest of the life. That's not good. We talk about it, that, you know, when you get married, you love the person way more than you loved them before when you were dating. And people are like, what do you mean? How is that possible? But it is possible when you do have giving and thoughtful giving into your relationship. Then it transforms your whole relationship to something else, to heights that you don't even probably imagine now before you're even into it. So yeah, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover tonight. Sorry it took longer than we all expected. Anyone want to say anything, comment about any of what I said so far before we say goodnight?
So if you're a taker, what should you do?
So I say, you know, takers, the best thing, and this is something to work on the character, to work on thoughtful giving. And I would say that actually I didn't write it here, but there is an exercise. Okay, there's an exercise that I actually read. And I wanted to say to everyone, I mean, I think it's really good for all of us to exercise every day. Find one thing or one person that you would practice with doing thoughtful giving. It could be the smallest thing. It could be, if you are in an office, you saw that someone got a fax, take the fax, the paper, and give it to them. You know, do things that no one asked you. You're not getting anything out of it. You have no interest in the person necessarily. You're there just to help. So if a person, I believe, if a person does every day something like that, and over time you increase it becomes a habit, there's no way the person will stay a taker forever.
It's a muscle. You practice it in areas that you're not even dating in. It's like what we were saying about product development versus marketing and sales. Being a giver is learning to be a giver outside of dating. So that when you actually come to the date, your marketing and sales are doing really well, and you're giving naturally, and it's coming deeply from within, not just externally. So that's what I think is what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Thoughts before we finish?
Would you guys say there's ever such thing as too much giving?
The question is it too much from both sides? If it's too much from one side, then yeah. Then you have to analyze what is really happening. Because I think it kind of has to be, like we said, not both sides that you giving and then you expecting something. But in the relationship, you give in different ways, the other side is giving in different ways. The feeling should be some kind of like there is a harmony here. If you start thinking maybe there's something too much, you have to think maybe there is this aspect of giving too much. And it could annoy the other person, it could not be received well.
Gabe, it's never too much from you.
But we spoke a bit in the Kabbalistic class about chesed versus gevura. So too much chesed can be dangerous in a time where you need to have some kind of confrontation. And that's when it would hurt. So when we give to a point that we feel we also can't tell the person if they're making a mistake or if there's something wrong. I feel because my chesed is so strong within me, I don't know how to bring in restriction as well. And that's something which is important.
Definitely.
So too much kindness can avoid me from having the right amount of, having the right way of conflicting and dealing with confliction between me and another person.
And also too much giving could turn to be an unhealthy giving. One of these unhealthy giving that the other side is not necessarily ready for that, or they're not there yet. You know, they're not really receiving it well. So
I think giving is too much if there's like an expectation, like you said, attached to that giving. If we're expecting someone to react a certain way in return, or I think we can often get caught up in our own expectations of how people are supposed to receive our gifts or receive our love. And so it takes a lot of, like, I think, mental training to learn how to not have those heavy expectations on someone else, because I think that's when it really like breaks down the connection, is if we're putting all these other parts on them, if we're giving and we're not truly giving from our heart without, you know, expecting that of them to return a certain way or give us the equal amount.
Right. I agree.
So yeah, I mean, that's the exact example that she was saying about clothing. And you have this expectation for the guy to appreciate. And that's exactly what Shira was saying, is how she needs to change her focus and say, okay, I gave him the card, I gave him the money, but I need to actually be thankful that he accepted it and he didn't get offended.
Or at least not expect too much, you know, not expect this whole, you know, appreciation for that act. It's good enough that he's agreeing for that and he's changing, and good, you know, I'm doing it for us.
The other part is, why try and change your partner so much? Like, you know, I think there's that part is kind of also not so right, like changing his clothing or changing, I think that ends up being a bit controlling.
So I would say that's, when I was actually, you know, preparing it and writing it, I was thinking about the shaper, the idea of the shaper, you know, trying to change the other person. But I would say, look, I mean, these things can happen if, you know, people, you know, she has a specific problem with something specific and he's receiving it well and he doesn't mind. There is no problem to be open about things at the right time, not too early, you know, and presenting certain things and seeing how it's received. But from there to have expectations to you know, to receive the gratitude and them being thankful and appreciate what you did for them, even though it wasn't even for them, then that's already a different type of thinking that can lead to not such good emotions towards them. Well, thank you all so much. It was awesome seeing you.